Productive Dentist Academy Podcast Network.
Listeners, do you ever feel like you have to be everything to everyone? And because of that, nobody gets your best, especially yourself. For me, when that happens, it's annoying, right? If you're stuck in the tug of war between being everything to everyone and yourself, this episode is for any of you that have asked that question. How do I keep on giving my best without losing myself in the process? Our guest today is Dr. Eric Recker. He is a previous offender of our podcast. It was a really excellent episode. We got a lot of downloads. And Dr. Recker is on a mission to help really high-achieving professionals, and I say that because they often suffer the most, help them push back against burnout and rediscover purpose in their own work and their life. So if you caught our previous episode, which will be in the show notes, you might remember Eric's powerful dam analogy, a visual, and it was a way to understand how that constant overdrive and what unprocessed stress can do to you and how it can quietly erode your foundation. So today we've invited Eric back yet because, surprise, the world is still stressed out and the world is in a really interesting climate. I know. And I bet that Eric has learned some things along the way, as have all of us. And we would love to dive in and take a deeper look at this and find out how Eric is still managing to bring light to the fight for balance, joy, and meaning. So welcome, everyone. First and foremost, welcome to my co-hosts, Chad and Maggie. Nice to see you both here and not dentisting.
That's right.
And Eric, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
We love having board uncertified dam engineers. Those are the best. So thank you for joining us today.
I'll do my best.
Hey, Maggie, you before we hit record, you were kind of on the hunt of framing our idea. Go for it.
Well, I thought Regan did an outstanding job framing an idea, but so you give of yourself, right? When is it your turn, or is it your turn, or when is it appropriate to put yourself first? But one of the things that I really wanted to talk to Eric about was there was a point at which I was reading a book or listening to a book, and it talked about how we live our lives and the fact that people who run like for exercise, there's some trauma stuck in them, okay, that they're actually running away from facing their problems. And that's why people run. Like this is psychology. And it really stuck with me because, sometimes you just want to be devil's advocate. I could never run. And I always wanted to. So whenever I came across somebody that could, I had a lot of respect for them and what their human body can do. And Eric is one of those people. But why can't there be a counter thought to that? Why do you have to run away from something? Why can't you be running towards something? And then as I was Eric kept popping up on my social media, I saw that he had moved and now he was climbing, right? So now he always has been climbing, but he was climbing. And then again, like this thought came, why do we climb? Why do we move up? Why don't we stay down here with the rest of the mortals, right? So I thought, who would be better to help us chew on these ideas and kind of unpack them, if not Dr. Eric Recker?
Wow, Maggie, you have just given us enough information for 6 episodes. So I'm really looking forward to our follow-ups that we'll have after this. So I think one of the biggest ideas that comes to my head as we talk about that is the whole concept of how comfortable we are trying to make our lives. I think we have an epidemic of comfort. And a book that I've read that I absolutely love is called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I'm not sure if anybody's read that, but basically he has said that we've made our lives so easy that when any adversity hits, we're in trouble. I mean, we're a Starbucks society, right? We want it in 5 minutes or less. We're an Amazon society, right? When Prime came out, all right, now anything that takes more than a day to get there, our world falls apart. We want it quick, we want it easy, and we want it comfortable. And that's really scary because we do all of these things to keep us from feeling any discomfort. I am not one of those people. I recognized that early on. And to your point, I started running to run away from things. I believed, and I think we talked about this in the last episode, I was told I wasn't good enough for a long time. I bought into that lie so much so that running and triathlon and all of that was a way for me to prove to people that I was good enough. I was running away from my trauma, running into this will make people believe that I'm good enough. And all it ever did was get people to say, hey, what's the next race? What's the next thing you have on your calendar? What's the next thing? And so it just kept feeding. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about that. You know, are we too comfortable? Are we trying to pursue lives that we don't have to face any adversity or difficulty?
I see that all the time. It hits really deep for me, inside and outside of dentistry. So in the professional, climate, it's always faster, 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 cheaper, cheaper, faster, faster. And now with AI being introduced, I see now it's AI can do everything. AI can't do everything, but everybody thinks, not everybody, some people think it can. And so much so that it's, questions like, well, just bring in AI for what? I don't know. We just need to bring it in. Like that mindset, it's underneath this, like, maybe it's because life is so finite and we know that life goes so fast. So we want to accomplish as much as we can and automate wherever we can. But I definitely agree that maybe it's having the discernment and the understanding that not everything needs to be rushed and not everything needs to be comfortable. Like there is an ultimate comfort that can actually come from what can initially feel like discomfort. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if I have to wait more than 10 minutes, I'm sure I'm like, well, let's go on to the next thing. I notice it too in movies. When you look at like children's programming from the 80s and how many seconds there are in between the frame switches,
Yeah.
drastically longer. Now, I think it was SpongeBob that brought in
SpongeBob is the one that's been given credit for roping it. Yes.
second to second and a half changes.
Because it used to be 7 seconds. I mean, and that seemed short to people in the 80s. And now 1 or 2 seconds, I think adult shows are even competing with that. Maybe not every second, but
yeah. So it's interesting because I'm wondering what that does to our brain chemistry and what that does to our nervous systems, even more importantly. And Maggie, I love what you said about that shift in paradigm, the running away to running towards. And I mean, that's deep because it is all in perspective and how you frame it. So I'm curious, Eric, how did you turn your own life from I'm running away to I'm running towards, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it looked like getting crazy burned out because until we address the things that we're running away from, we will keep running away from them. And the way that I ran away from them was always by adding more. I just kept adding more because if I had more, then people would think I was good enough. I mean, the amount of energy that I wasted on some of these pursuits, and yes, exercise is great, but my schedule would look like, and I don't think I told this the last time I was on, when I hit rock bottom, I was buying my practice from my father. I was building a new office. I was training for 2 Ironman triathlons. I was coaching both of my kids in soccer, and I was serving on 5 different boards.
And that wasn't enough to tell you that you were good enough.
Right, because nobody was going to tell me that. No matter what, nobody was going to sit me down and just shake me and say, what in the heck are you doing? Because I just figured out how to manage it all. Wednesday mornings, we'd be up at 3. The alarm clock would go off at 3. We'd start running at 3:30 so we could get done by 6:30 so we could do the other things we had to do. I know, Chad, you've been through seasons like this of training where it's just insane the amount of hours you spend on it.
right. The part-time job. The second wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They say it's cheaper than therapy, but I know what I've spent on bikes and I would not say it's cheaper.
I don't know, debatably. Yeah.
But yeah, nobody is ever going to just grab you and shake you and say, "Hey, I think you need to slow down." But if we listen to our bodies, the signs are there. They're always there. It's not normal to have heart palpitations when you get stressed out. It's not normal for you to get chest pain when you get bad news. It's not normal for you to have the slightest thing go wrong in your practice or in your life and you get a splitting headache. It's not normal for you to have panic attacks. It's just not. And when those things start happening, you have to slow down and you have to usually get help from somebody else who will ask you the right questions, because we're not good at asking ourselves those questions.
So
Why?
Why?
Why are we not good at asking? I'm just asking. Why are we not good at asking those questions?
Because we've avoided them.
we
we
run
avoid
away
them.
from them.
Yeah.
Do they not hit you when you're running though?
What's that?
Do those questions not hit you when you're running?
No, not much else hits me when I'm running.
Oh,
You have to remember, we're 6'4", 240 pounds. We're thinking about every step, not like joy. It's left, right, left.
So there are multiple types of runners, but there are runners that are out there that make it look effortless. We've all seen people that are just in cruise control.
140 pounds.
Yep. And they're probably singing and doing whatever.
Smiling.
That is not Eric Recker. When you see me running, it does not look like that.
So do you want to look like that though? So right? Like it, because when I started swimming, right? I can't turn my brain off. It just freaking won't shut up. I keep analyzing and reanalyzing, right? Like I keep climbing, whatever it is. I keep swimming towards something. I want it to shut off.
Do you know what my thought is? You haven't swum enough.
What,
I-
Eric?
I seem to think when I'm swimming for the first half hour, but when I get around 2,000 yards, I think I'm zoned in or out or something like that, and I'm done thinking. So,
You want to know how I broke that, Maggie, from swimming? I started praying while I was doing my strokes. So I would I'd say the Lord's Prayer over and over. I'd be like, "Our Father who art in heaven," and I just do that. And I do it over and over and over again. And then after I did it maybe 5 or 6 times, I'd kind of check in. And then if my head wasn't spinning anymore, then I'd just swim for a while. If it started spinning again, I'd maybe say Psalm 23 or some of the other things I had memorized. But I would get something because I wanted to enjoy that. I didn't want it to just be another time that my brain was going nuts in the background. And so I had to use some distraction techniques for that.
But back to the question on like the runner, right? You said you're not that type of runner where you're just like running around and singing and I don't know. I guess there's different kinds of runners that I wasn't aware of. They just all really fit me. So do you have a choice on what kind of runner you are? I realize this is somewhat not about the podcast, but also everything about the podcast, right? Like, what are you choosing while you're running and what's the reason for which you're running? Do these play into the decisions on what kind of runner you are?
Boy, that's a great question. I think genetically, some people are just going to look like they absolutely know what they're doing. And most of those people are, there's some people that are my height and Chad's height that look pretty graceful, but they don't have the weight on that we have on. They're 180, 190 pounds. And extra weight, I guess is beneficial in some things, but
body slamming people.
With all the pounding on the pavement, it's not very beneficial. And it's a big part of the reason why I've switched more to hiking or rucking instead of running. Or if I run now, it's intervals. So I'll run for 3 minutes, walk for 5. And I think there is there is huge translation from that into our lives. Like most of us, as if we're practice owners, or even if we're dentists, we're running hard, we're working hard, we're learning new things, the pace is picking up, we're going. And the thing that I love about intervals is it gives my body a break. So I'm running at a decent clip for that 3 minutes, but then I allow myself to slow down, let my heart rate slow down, my mind is in a different place at that point. And I know I'm going to do it for a finite amount of time so that when I start running again, I'm ready to run.
I'm curious. I want to go back to one piece that you had mentioned, and it was asking the right questions. So finding someone that can support you and be that mirror and help ask those questions. What are some of those questions that you would ask?
Yeah, I love to ask people what they're chasing. Like, when you get there, what does there look like? Because we haven't defined where there is, then it's an infinite run.
Chad, do you want to be our pretend coaching client right now?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so what's there look like?
I'm healthy enough to do whatever age appropriately that I want to. I sleep well, and I can eat what I want.
Wow. Okay. That's there. That's too abstract. You need to tell me more.
So I want to have the whole pizza, and I want to have unlimited amounts of Pepsi with that pizza. I want to be able to someday.
Chad.
What's that?
That's bad for your heart.
Right.
Not if I'm running.
So then my question is, do you want to want less?
No. Do I want less pizza?
Do you want to want less pizza?
No, I'm happy. But that's the problem with coaching, is if you're content, it kind of ruins the need for coaching. so that might be where it ends. So there's a side lesson there. Finding contentment is a game changer, a game breaker. Like it gets you off of the wheel. It'd be like this: how fast can you run? It's like, how about if I hop off the treadmill and I don't run at all? Like, running aside from the analogy, but like if it's like, how fast do you want to run? How far do you want to run? It's like, what if actually I hopped off the treadmill and was happy with where I am and who I am? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well then I guess you don't need to train to run anymore, do you? No. So do you get where I'm going with that? Like,
I do. And in the pursuit of contentment, there
yes,
are very, very few people who get there.
Yes.
Very few people who get there. So that's going back to the question of where is there? Like, what are you trying to get to?
Yes.
In give me tangible things where you will feel like you would allow yourself to run a little bit slower.
Okay, well, let's redo it, because maybe I broke the system when I answered. So let's pretend again, because like with my 3 answers, one of them is to be able to, hang with my grandkids someday, like to be able to move around with my kids and stuff like that. Lately, even, I've done better in my running form. And so my knees don't hurt as much as they did like 10 years ago, believe it or not. My knees don't hurt like they did when I was in my late 20s. From heel striking, for those runners that care, like I switched to a midfoot strike. And now when I'm working in my greenhouse, like I'm squatted down and caulking. This morning I was caulking along the outside of my greenhouse to winterize it and stuff like that. And I was like, man, it feels good to squat down here and I don't hurt. And like, how cool is that? Like, I was like, 15 years ago, I couldn't do that. And now I'm 50% older than I was at that point, and I'm feeling better. So that's cool. Like, for example, is just to be able to move how I would want to age appropriately and not be just sitting on a rocker, grandpa someday, could you work with that, Eric?
Yeah, I love that. I love that because you've taken it from something that's abstract
Yes.
to making it more specific.
Yep.
And so much of what I have to do when I work with clients is get them from these big grandiose ideas.
Yes.
Okay. Right? We need to get more clarity because clarity is kindness. And when we know exactly what we want, then we are more likely to be able to achieve it. So then we start looking at the different things you do and we ask, does this support that goal?
Which kind of brings it.
Oh, go ahead.
Which brings us a little bit back to Reagan's idea at the beginning of how much do you have to give and when is it time to think about you? And here you are talking about you, like Chad is talking about himself, being there for his kids. So he has to give of himself right now by running or doing whatever in order to be able to give to others, not just today, but in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. It always starts with us. And not in a selfish way, but we are givers. We are service providers. We will run ourselves into the ground so that at the end of the day, everybody still likes us. And none of our team is going to leave because they're grumpy at us. And our family's going to be okay. And then we're shot, right? It all starts with us. It all starts with the things that we do. We have to be a little bit selfish so that we can be selfless, right? What is one, we have to be able to ask ourselves every single day, what is one thing I'm going to do for myself today?
Has that ever felt selfish to you, Reagan or Chad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that absolutely. It felt really weird at first. I've gotten better at it. I can't say I don't fall back into my patterns. I feel like it can be an addiction at times. Like you always have to be aware. I'll say, I mean, for me, for taking on like too much or saying that I will, like we've all known, like there's multiple episodes on it at this point where I talk about that, but I've gotten a lot better at saying I need to do something for me and putting in that place and not feeling bad about it. I definitely have felt in the past not good. So it felt counterintuitive at first. But then I finally realized, and so many people will shout at you and they will say it, and don't think I haven't heard it from so many different, authors and very intelligent people that say you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. It's on the airplane, when you're flying, you have to put your oxygen mask on. And I'm not sure that I have an answer. Maybe Eric does, of what could actually really get that change through your head so you understand, oh, I really do matter. And I do think coaching, though, for me anyway, was a absolute key. I had to have somebody outside of myself and outside of my family or my colleagues that could ask those questions and force me, like it was in a safe environment and I could reflect on it and really think deeply. Only then did I even entertain, I think, the option of taking care of myself and asking myself what's something I can do for me every day.
Yeah. And I think people who are really struggling with that, I'm not talking about just taking off to the beach by yourself for a week. I'm not talking about that. We all have a lot on our plates. And so I remember the pressure that I used to put on a 1-week vacation, right? Have you guys ever put a lot of pressure on a 1-week vacation, right? And how many of those do we get a year? Maybe a couple, maybe 3. Chad gets like 7.
7.
Yeah.
On his yacht in Hawaii.
On my yacht.
Yes. Yeah. What do you call it? Big Johnson?
Or Maui, either one, whatever you call it. Like I call the island Big Johnson because that's where I am most of the time, most of my life, just in there.
You can edit that out if you want.
No, it's going on a t-shirt.
I love
it. On a Big Johnson t-shirt. Are we back in the 90s or thing marks as far as I do? And those Big Johnson shirts that say poker in the rear and something in the front,
I'm gonna call you. I'm changing the contact in my phone right now. Big John.
There you go.
Hey, hold on. This is an Iowa reference, but the the periodontist at the University of Iowa College of Dentistry, from North Carolina. And I'm trying to think if he was head of the department, and he always had a Southern drawl. And he'd call on me and he'd say, Big City Johnson, because he knew I was from West Des Moines, which wasn't true. But in his mind, I was from West Des Moines, which is a big city. So he'd say, Big City Johnson, what do you think the answer is to this dehiscence here? The dehiscence.
Dehiscence.
Yeah. What was his name? Benny
Hawkins.
Hawkins. Yes. Dr. Benny Hawkins. And he just had the greatest smirk on his face when he'd get to call me Big City Johnson. And I'd be like, I'm from the East Side. And he'd be like, oh, you're from West Des Moines. You're Big City Johnson. I think he was just harassing me. He just had fun. Dr. Hawkins. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
But the whole vacation thing, like we put so much pressure on it, and here's what happens. We coast into fumes on vacation, right? Because we've done everything to get everything just perfect before we leave. And then we finally get to go. And we've put so much pressure on it, and it takes us about 4 days to get uncorked because we're so tight and we're so stressed. And then we finally get uncorked, and we have 1 or maybe 2 good days, and then it's time to go home. And we go home and we didn't rest and all of the things. So I like to talk to people about, okay, so we don't have a whole week. What can we do to right the ship, to take care of ourselves in a weekend? Okay, I'm too busy. I don't have a weekend. Okay, how about a Saturday? What could you do on a Saturday to take care of yourself? Maybe you don't have that. What can you do in a half day? What can you do in 2 hours? What can you do in an hour? 5 minutes, 2 minutes, even 2 minutes. You can just sit at your desk instead of picking your phone up, and you can do some box breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, let it out for 4, hold for 4. Do that for 2 minutes. See, the thing is, we overthink the taking care of ourselves and think it has to be these big things. And that's what I think the stumbling block is. I want us to figure out really small things, micro resilience things that we can do to take care of ourselves. If we always pick up our phone and always bow to notifications and always let our brain spin, then we're just going to keep getting drained. But if we can find out what to do, maybe in between patients, we just go sit in our office for a couple minutes instead of checking on whatever. Or maybe we stand in front of the window in a Superman pose and just look out the window. These are things that we can do that are small deals, but they have big results. So those are the kind of things I think we start with. And then, sometimes we do have to take a little bit more time for ourselves. Maybe that's even as simple as, it normally takes me 15 minutes to drive home, but I've had a day. Maybe I need to take the 20-minute drive home tonight. Maybe I need to take just a little bit longer, or maybe I don't feel like I have enough time to get ready for the day on my drive to work. Maybe I take a little bit longer drive to work. It's just these little things that we can start to do that can have such a big difference.
I think we should box breathe. Let's box breathe. Like did you say it was 2 minutes?
You can do it for 2 minutes, but I'll lead us through it, okay? So that everybody who's listening to the podcast.
Let's do it, listeners. 2 minutes. If you're driving, you can do this.
And hold on, I'm going to tie it in, Dr. Recker, to we talked last week about nasal breathing. So be intentional about inhaling through your nose, because we were talking about mouth taping. Regan, did you get your mouth tape?
I did, and it's great.
Good.
And it's not brought that up. I forgot.
Yes, it's not as suffocating as you think. So when you breathe in, don't, gulp through your mouth unless you can't breathe through your nose, fine. But I just thought I'd point out, nasal breathing is going to increase the nitric oxide in your cardiovascular system. It's actually in that 2-minute exercise going to reduce your blood pressure. No lie.
Okay.
All right. So
Eric.
Here's what we'll do. I'll set a timer for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And then I will lead us through the first 2 rounds of it. And then do we want to do the full 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So I will start us, and yes, just like Chad said, we're going to do this nasal breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Okay, let's just get used to that. Okay.
Nasal inhale, nasal exhale.
Yep. All right. So when I say go, I'll tell us what we're going to do. Okay. So I'll walk us through first. We're going to take 4 seconds to breathe in, and then we're going to hold that for 4 seconds. And then we're going to take 4 seconds to breathe out, and we're going to hold that for 4 seconds. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Ready and go. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Now you're on your own. All right. So what else could you have done with that 2 minutes? Watched 6 Instagram videos? Maybe sent back 1 email? Maybe done something else that escalated life? But instead we brought calm. Instead we brought decreased blood pressure, just like Chad said. We brought decreased cortisol. We brought one thing that's not measurable, but it's one of my favorite things, and I would just call that "It is well with my soul."
So I'm going to push back on you, and I'm going to say, well, maybe you did, right? Like when you were counting, it was easy. As soon as you stopped counting, it was like a clearance sale on what am I going to do next in my head, right? Like instead of when you were counting, it was very zen, right? I'm going like you're telling me to. I'm thinking about nothing. I'm listening to your voice. I'm moving. As soon as you stopped counting, my mind was given permission to go wherever it wanted, right? And it didn't stay with counting in my head. Although later I told myself, okay, you got to start counting when he's not counting, because then everything else is going to shut up. But so that's when people say, how do you meditate? How do you do any of this? Because I can't stop my thoughts, right? This is part of that. You can tell someone, this is me pushing back on you. You can tell me, go to your office and sit for 2 minutes and don't touch your phone. You can handcuff me to the desk. You can handcuff me to this chair if you want to. But my mind will do what my mind is going to do, because that's all it's ever known, right? Is to process information, fast forward, give me the next thing that I'm going to do. So instead of resting for those 2 minutes, I'm sitting here making a list. As soon as the 2 minutes is done, when is it done? When is it done? When is it done? I got shit to do. So
Okay, wait. But you said that when he was telling us and guiding us, that was helpful. Have you ever had I totally get where you're, because you're saying your brain wants something to anchor. It needs something to focus on. Do you have a metronome? I don't know if you're a musician or if you have like any musicians in your family. We have a metronome here, and that is so unbelievably helpful. For example, Maggie, like if I try to meditate on my own without anything around me, it can be difficult for me to do. I do guided meditations because I solely focus. So when you were doing that and thinking in it and we had our quiet time to breathe, I was looking at Eric. And so I was trying to remember to count, but I was watching his chest go up and his chest fall down. And that was telling me, okay, so I was still using you, sorry about that, as a guide in it to kind of remind myself that one, I was, following the tempo and the timing right, but also so that my mind wouldn't start thinking about, I've got this text that just pinged over here. I've got a Slack message that pinged up over here, to stay locked in. Maybe something like a metronome would help.
And
in
I
that
think there's
instance.
apps for that too.
There are.
Or YouTube videos.
I have 2 recommendations. One, if you have ever had an Aura ring, the Aura app has guided breathing meditations. And so like you choose a 2-minute or a 5-minute or a 10-minute, whatever, and it'll say on this one, I want you to breathe this way. And I'm going to, like once a minute, check in with you on your pace or whatever and stuff like that. So, it's got the guided ones. And then also, like if you're actually picturing the box, and I think that's part of why it's called box breathing, is that you're picturing, boxing. And I think seasoned swimmers are probably okay with this, just because there needs to be a rhythm to your breathing. And on the 7th one, you flip turn, and then, and stuff like that. And you get used to whatever your cadence is. But those were just a couple, I mean, considering we're called everyday practices, those were just a couple nuggets of ideas that I have.
Yeah. I was gonna say the metronome as well that you said, Regan. I think a lot of what we're trying to do with this is about setting intention. And that's a lot of what meditation is. It's not, we're never going to get perfection with it. We're setting an intention for that time. And Maggie, I get it. My mind was like that too. When COVID hit and practice was closed, and there were all of those flipping webinars and everything that we thought we needed to watch and all the stuff we needed to learn. And it was just such a crazy time. I committed to 30 minutes of quiet a day, and I have that head like yours that spins relentlessly. And I had to come up with a recentering phrase, because the first time I tried to be quiet for 30 minutes and I looked at my watch the first time thinking we had to be close, it was 43 seconds into it. 43 seconds. That's about how much time I could do it. And my mind drifted about 39 times during that 43 seconds. But I set the intention, and then I stuck with it the next day, and I stuck with it the next day. And I kept my recentering phrase was, I am here, right now. And I had to say it, and I had to say it, and I had to say it, and I had to say it. And it eventually got to the point where I could get through chunks of time where my mind would just be still. And so I found a lot of improvement in that, but it was continuing to be intentional, continuing to trying to bring myself back to that present moment. So I can 100% relate with what you're saying. I'd be more than happy to record a 2-minute video of me doing breathe 2, 3, 4. I could do all that for you if that helps. But I do think maybe using a metronome or just sticking with it. And I know you are not this person at all, Maggie. But I think the temptation for many people is to say, oh, I've tried that. That doesn't work for me. And I always like to say a follow-up question. Well, how many times did you try it? Because if you try something once and it didn't work, that just means it didn't work that time. So I think a lot of this stuff that we're doing is about intention. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense in the world. And I mean, I have always admitted to all the mental illness that I suffer with or suffer from or whatever. And I'm not supposed to be saying those words out loud. But one of the things that I always thought I believed or I did believe this, was that I had no control over my thoughts, that it was my thoughts that were making me sick, and that I had no way to direct them or to control them, or, and through therapy and all kinds of other things, including meditation, prayer, walking in nature, time off, a lot of time off, you start to realize that you absolutely have control over your thoughts. You're the actor in this story, you're the director in this story, you're the producer of this story, you're the author of this story. You have the ability to control that thought, except if you've never done it, it's really hard to do. So everything you said about intention, right? Like, I could sit here and my brain's kind of like spinning in one direction. I have a choice. I really do. And some of it is, how often have I exercised that choice?
Mm. One of the great pearls that my mentor gave me is, he just said, use the word stop. As the noise gets louder, as the ringing in the ears gets louder, as the voices and everything, sometimes he just has to yell stop. And he said, it's got to be pretty crazy for my neighbors because they know I live alone and I don't tend to have a lot of guests. But for them to hear me just say audibly loud, stop. And so, yeah, I hope that's helpful for somebody who's listening out there who has a problem with that, because we tend to be the people with spinning heads. High achievers have busy minds.
I think you've hit a hack here. I think you've done a hack and really bridged where we are today as a society and a culture, in that constant need for not just comfort, but also like instant gratification, and not having a big attention span with these micro moments. So these little micro things, because the reality is, we're going to get off the podcast and life is still there to live. There's still 1,000 things on the to-do list. There's still 1,000 tasks undone, messages unread. So finding these little tiny 2 minutes really is realistic. Anyone can do it. And, creating some calm throughout that day. I have parting thoughts for you. How can people learn more about you? We didn't even talk about the damn analogy book, but where are you living right now so people can get more Eric Recker?
Hey, I said this was going to be 6 episodes. It may take us a long time to record them, but I think we're going to get there. Yeah, my website, ericrecker.com, is a good place. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I just try to post things that help people. That's pretty much what I do. Shoot me a DM. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation to see if I can help.
Well, thank you so much. Love having you on the podcast as always. And thanks for box breathing us into a slightly calmer state, except for Maggie.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist, and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share, or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.